May I remind members that as per statutory guidance made under Section 4 of the Local Government Wales Measure 2011, I formally adopted hybrid meeting policy that any member attending a meeting remotely must be able to be seen and be heard by the members and officers who are attending the meeting, as well as by members of the public viewing the meeting, so I can ask that you all please use your cameras for the duration of the meeting. We welcome the use of Welsh language at meetings. I've had no request for people to speak Welsh today, so this meeting will be conducted in English only. Members in the chambers, please be aware that we're all on camera and that you may be visible on screen when people around you are speaking. And please remember to speak clearly into your microphones. And members participating remotely, can you please refrain from using the chat function and instead use the raised hand icon to indicate when you want us to speak. And please remember to keep your microphone muted when you are not talking. Now moving on to the agenda, which is item 1, attendance and apologies. Chris, have we got any apologies, please?
No apologies today, Chair.
Anybody else got any apologies? No. Item 2 then is declarations of interest. Members, do you have any interest to declare? No. I have the one item where this involves the DVSA and MOTs. I have to declare an interest because I am an official MOT tester. Right. We move on to item 3 then, if nobody else has got any. Minutes of the last meeting. Members, could you possibly state whether you have anything to raise in relation to the minutes? If not, I will take them as approved. They're on pages 3 to 8. Anybody like to raise anything or got anything they wanted to ask? No? Thank you. We then move on to item 4, which is the approval of proposed fees 24 to 25, the scrap metal, street trading, animal establishment licensing and sex establishments, page 3 to 32. Would you like to deliver your report, please, Claire?
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. The first report for General Licensing Committee this morning relates to the proposed licence fees for 24-25 in respect of scrap metal, street trading, animal establishment licensing and sex establishments, which requires the approval of the General Licence Committee. Certain licence fees are deemed to be non-statutory in that local authorities can determine what or whether to charge. The calculated licence fees are intended to be a fair reflection of the actual costs of administering and enforcing each licence, in much the same way as anyone would expect to pay a reasonable price for the service they receive. It is not possible to achieve full cost recovery in terms of overall licensing functions because some activities do not relate directly to the administration and enforcement of licences. The calculated costs for the proposed fees are based on budgeted salary costs for 24-25 in line with the Council's medium-term service and financial plan. Central services, apportionments and direct costs such as IT systems are based on the 22-23 actual costs or confirmed costs. Under the Constitution, the setting of fees levied for licences falls to the Licensing Committee for determination. Section 4 of the report sets out the general fee setting principles. Fees are reviewed annually using the steps as outlined in 4.1 and 4.12 of the report. For each licence type, there are 3 main elements that are calculated: the underpinning costs, the specific licence steps relating to each type of licence from initial advice through to the administration and approval of the licence, and the hourly operational cost to the authority for each officer. The actual cost of each underpinning activity and specific licence step is calculated using the hourly rate, thereby ensuring that each licence applicant pays a fair licence fee depending on the time taken to process and deliver each type of licence. Local authorities are specifically precluded from making a profit, using income generated from one type of licence to subsidise other licences, They cannot benchmark fees against those charged by neighbouring authorities and using fees for other purposes, for example, to discourage businesses from trading or seeking to equalise costs between different types of businesses. Section 4.2 of the report refers to the proposed fees for scrap metal for 24-25, and the proposed fees are attached as Appendix 1, with a comparison with neighbouring authorities attached at Appendix 2. In relation to street trading, the proposed fees are attached at Appendix 3 and a comparison with neighbouring authorities attached at Appendix 4. There are 3 different types of street trading, which are as follows: permanent pitches and rounds, short-term seasonal trading and single-day trading, and this has been reflected in the proposed fees for 24-25. 4.4 of the report refers to the proposed fees for animal establishment licensing. These include licenses that are issued with respect of boarding, breeding, dangerous wild animals, performing animals, license to sell pets, which has replaced the pet shop licenses, riding establishments and zoos. The proposed fees are attached at Appendix 5 of the report. A comparison with neighbouring authorities has not been provided due to the complexity of the licensing regime, and it is known that the inspection regime in neighbouring authorities differs. Section 4.5 of the report refers to the proposed fees for sex establishments for 24-25. The authority currently has no sex establishment premises, although applications in respect of sex shops have been received in the past. The proposed fees are therefore based on estimated timings, but would need to be reviewed on the basis of experience should any application be received. The proposed fees are attached at Appendix 6 and a comparison table with neighbouring authorities at Appendix 7. Members will note that there are some differences between the fees that are proposed to be charged and the fees charged by neighbouring authorities, and this could be due to a number of reasons which are outlined in section 4.6.2 of the report. These can include the way that fees are calculated. Some authorities may not be calculating full cost recovery and are therefore charging less than they permitted to charge. In preparing this report, officers have worked with the finance team to establish officer hourly costs, and the report has been seen and approved by finance and legal prior to submission to members. Members are therefore asked to 1. Approve the proposed licensing fees fall into this committee for determination, or 2. Should they not approve any of the proposed fees, indicate the reasons for not approving the fees and agree an alternative. Thank you, Chair. That's my report.
Thank you for that. Has any members got any questions or comments they would like to state? We're all quiet. The recommendation on page 15, which Claire just mentioned, is members happy to agree the recommendation? Yeah. Anybody who don't agree? Just to make sure that. No, we're happy to agree that. Thank you for that. If you move then on to item 5, which is then private hire and hackney carriage licence fees for 24-25, following consultation. That's on page 33 to page 40. Can you deliver the report, please, Claire?
Thank you, Chair. The second report for General Licensing Committee this morning relates to a consultation that has been undertaken in relation to the proposed taxi fees for 24-25. So the purpose of the report is to inform members of the proposed fees for hackney carriage and private hire licence fees, which fall to the Licensing Committee for approval, and to update members on the outcome of the statutory consultation that has taken place. In November 2023, the committee agreed that licence fees should be consulted upon, and the fees shown are in Appendix 1 of the report. A statutory notice was placed in a local newspaper, as required by law, providing information about the proposed licence fees for 24-25 and gave advice on the way in which the consultation responses could be made. The statutory period of 28 days was given for any responses to be submitted. In addition, a letter or email was also sent to all relevant licence holders advising of the proposed fees. The consultation ended on the 17th of January 2024, and there were no responses received in relation to the proposed fees that were sent out to the trade. As there were no representations to the proposed fees received during the consultation period, the proposed fees will therefore come into effect from the 1st of April 2024. It is therefore recommended, and members are asked to note, that the proposed fees consulted on for 24-25 will come into effect from the 1st of April following full consultation, and that no representations to the proposed fees were received. Thank you, Chair. That's my second report.
Thank you for that, Claire. Has any members got any questions or comments? Or are you happy to agree to the recommendation? Yeah, somebody's got a question? Giles? Councillor Giles Davis?
Thank you, Chair. I just noticed as well, how many disabled vehicles have we got? Because I know it asks again for a reduction raised for new or current electric vehicles or for disabled vehicles. Just wondering how many we've actually got in Torfaen at the moment.
I haven't got those figures to hand, Councillor Davis, but we can certainly update you after committee with the exact figures. Obviously, those figures can change on a daily basis. We have new vehicles come onto the fleet. We have vehicles taken off, but unfortunately, I don't have those figures to hand at this moment in time.
I was going to propose, if we haven't got if we haven't got much take-up of electric vehicles, or we haven't got many disabled vehicles, whether it's worth looking. It's been set at £70 and £80 for the last several years. Whether it's worth, if there's in the budget somewhere, if we could perhaps increase it slightly to encourage more electric vehicle use for the climate emergency, or for more disabled vehicles to be put on the road. That was just, on the top of my head. That was a notice that doesn't change for several years. So was there any leeway to perhaps increase those figures to encourage more take-up?
We can certainly look at that going forward. We've been out for consultation now on these fees and the proposed £80 and £70 reduction for wheelchair accessible vehicles. But if that's something the member wanted to consider going forward, we can look at that next time that we go out for consultation on fees.
Yeah, perhaps next year. It's just, I know it's too late for this year, but it's something perhaps we could look at for next year.
No problem at all. Thank you, Councillor Davis, for your comments.
Yes, thank you for that question. Any other questions? Anybody want to ask Claire? No? So, are we all happy to agree the recommendations? Yeah. Is anybody that don't? That's great. Thank you for that. Thank you. Right. Right. The next one we go on to is item 6, the date of the next meeting. This is for your information. It's scheduled to take place on 9th of May 2024. So, everybody record that one. Right, we'll move on to item 7 now, because this is an exclusion of press and public. Do members agree to the exclusion of the press and public from the meeting, as presentations and meeting papers are not for publication, because in accordance with the paragraph 12 and 14 of Part 4 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, as amended by the Access to Information Variant Order Wales 2007, that's a mouthful. It contains information about a particular individual and information related to the financial and business affairs of particular persons, including the Council. And in all the circumstances of the case of public interest, in maintaining the exemptions outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. Are we all agreed on that? Yeah. Thank you, members. Chris, can